Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session we are covering a thought, an idea, a question that someone had, which is, does Winston actually counter Sim? And the general answer used to be, oh yeah, Winston counters Sim, instantly destroys turrets, fights the Sim with her lock-on beam, it's a good fight, Sim doesn't win that, works pretty well for Winston. That used to be the answer. Sim has been reworked pretty heavily since then to the point of, hey, wait, is that still really true? So we're going to get into the actual question here, but first I want to sort of go over the answer for those of you that are like, wait, no, I just want the answer to this question. And that's fine, I will appease you. So what you run into here is Sim does actually, in high level play, in organized play, and scrims, get Winston does get used as a Sim counter, but not in the way you think. It's not Overwatch isn't really a game of like, ah yes, there's a Sim, and now let's bring out a Winston and your Sim is counter. A few of those interactions exist. More often you're really looking at playstyle adjustments. What you're actually having happen is that you'll roll out, and you'll roll out with something like this. You'd probably do it on Night Market, not this map, but that's perfectly fine. Maybe I'll just take us over to Night Market. No, let's do here. This is fine. You'd roll out with something like this if you were expecting the Sim, not just the Winston. So you'd come out with your Reinhardt, and you'd actually be subbing your Sim or your Winston in place for your D.Va. And what you're doing here is you're making it, and we can have 5 people, 6 people on both teams, doesn't matter. I'm just using the one as examples here. We can have our Sim turrets up. Oh, isn't that great? We've got a Sim turret here. We've got a Sim turret here. Isn't that scary? Not really. Yes, Winston can clear these quickly, but Winston can't really clear these any more quickly than D.Va, and in some case Winston has less ability to clear them because they can be high enough that he can't reach them without using leap, and that's a commitment, whereas D.Va can just deal with them, or Zarya can just deal with them with beam, a little more precisely. But what you're looking at is Winston has the ability to commit your team harder to a fast brawl. Sim gets value when a fight is allowed to go on for any reasonable amount of time, and she's allowed to stay alive in it. If she's allowed to ramp up off your Reinhardt, ramp up off your D.Va, ramp up off your Winston, and allowed to just survive, she's going to do really well and your team is going to lose. Like, if she's allowed to stay alive, she is going to win a match for her team. But she doesn't have very good survivability herself. Her turrets help a little bit. She can hide behind her own Reinhardt. That's helpful, don't get me wrong. But if you commit hard enough to fighting her team and going, no, we are going to fight her team, and if she's in range, we are going to fight her and eliminate her quickly, and we are going to go, no, 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 we're going fast, we're going to eliminate you fast. That is one of the two real ways that you win against Symmetra. Yes, you still want to break these turrets on your way in, yes, that helps, but you don't want to go in here, break the turrets, and then spend a bunch of time breaking the turrets while she's ramping up off you. You either have to break these turrets fast, or break these turrets, then leave, let her drop down to 0 charge again, and then go back in. But if you just go in, quickly break the turrets, and fight her, you're actually going to do quite well. This is a tech swap that you see happen. You swap out your off tank for a Winston because Winston gives you very good brawl. This Sim wants to play in her Reinhardt's pocket, wants to play just behind her Reinhardt, wants to play in a situation like, say this, where she is sitting here behind her Reinhardt, where her beam still reaches, but where the other Reinhardt swing maybe doesn't reach her with because it only hits her Reinhardt. That's sort of where she's wanting to play. And if your Reinhardt pushes harder to swing into both of them, and your Winston cleaves deep to get her and the Reinhardt and whoever else is there, Winston is actually used these days as a partially dive character, but a partially brawl character. One of the comps that he sees the most use in, outside of tech swaps to deal with Sim, is actually the 6-man comp, or the Talon dive comp, where we're looking at, hey, Winston plus D.Va plus Lucio plus Moira, and this, and then you can mix in Tracer, Sombra, Reaper, whatever you want here, not strictly whatever you want. There's things like these that are generally good, but you're looking at something like this, and it's a dive brawl hybrid, and Winston is giving it some of its brawliness. Winston is actually giving you more brawl than, say, you might get out of a Hammond, that sort of thing. So that's what you're going for here. This is not a full dive comp that we're looking at. We're leaning into the brawl aspects. So what you're doing to beat a Sim in this situation is we're using Winston to upgrade our brawl brawl to win this fight faster. That said, this only works if your whole team commits to this fight. If you do this and your Junkrat, or let's say your Tracer, goes, no, I'm scared, I don't want to fight this yet, I want to play out here until it's safe, or you have, I don't know, maybe let's get someone else, your Reinhardt is going, oh yeah, I swung at there, Reinhardt, but now I'm going to back out, and then I'll go in again later and swing. This is not going to work. You're just going to get melted. But if you hard commit together here, and you understand what you're doing, yes, this is absolutely a valid counter to bring Winston in to give you more brawl. And part of what makes it better is that your D.Va, for example, who would be another common pick if you're running Reinhardt, if you were running Brawl, gets no value. Sim just ramps up off of her. Sim ramps up off the Winston shield too, don't get me wrong, but you're actually winning the fight, doing good damage while that Winston bubble is down. You've got your Rein shield that your Winston is zapping through, you've got your Winston bubble that your Winston is zapping through, and your Rein is swinging through while neither of them are taking damage. And if the Sim wants to come in close enough to try to eliminate either of them through their bubble, she'll break the bubble fast. But if she wants to come in quick, close enough to get them before the bubble's gone, she's absolutely within their range and is going to get just basically deleted. Symmetra does not have that much survivability. She really counts on having a bit of range to her beam and her turrets and has someone else to protect her. So if you can force this brawl hard and really upgrade hard for that brawl, you can take her out. And that is how Winston gets used when Winston is countering Symmetra. Again, better than the D.Va, which would have the DM that, wait, that doesn't really work. And Sim is happy to ramp off of D.Va. That's great for her. She can play at a range where D.Va doesn't really hurt her. Even if she did play closer, she'd still be quite happy. That works for her. DM doesn't really do anything. Winston's going to be better for your brawl. It also works because you can roll out on this expecting the Sim in a lot of Sim maps. But you can swap to Winston early in a match if your team is willing to commit to going in and fighting. If your team is one of those poke at the choke teams, they're scared, they're not going to go in, this is absolutely not an option for you. So then we get into the other main option for dealing with Symmetra, and that is actually going to be more along the lines of, hey, let's get these out of here, and now we have to soften this team up enough. And if we're going to soften this team up enough, that's going to be done with something like, say, this, where we go, let's just soften this up, get some sort of lead before we are willing to go in. Let's not run Winston just because we can still run him, but he's not really the counter here. Now we won't run him. Something like this where we are trying to soften this team up with angle pressure in some way. That might be we get enough barrier health from them gone, like, oh wait, you guys don't have much barrier health anymore. That might be we broke all your turrets and some of you are missing health. That might be you guys are missing cooldowns, like your TP got broken and your Lucio amp is gone. Or it might be we actually got an elimination and now we feel we can go in. We still go in and try to win rapidly because we do not want the Symmetra to get a bunch of value from the fight just going on for a long time, but Symmetra should not be able to ramp while you guys are poking into this team. To be perfectly clear though, this we'll just poke her out strategy that you might go with if your team is being passive does not work if you have someone going out and leaving and going out and leaving and sort of doing this sort of thing. You cannot let her be getting her ramp off, be letting her maintain her ramp, be letting these guys also fight you back and drain your resources. This has to be more of this. And I did this here on a King of the Hill map, but this does work on other maps too. You can imagine this the same way on Eichenwald if we'd pulled up that map instead, where, hey, there's a Sim, they've got a choke. You can't fully surround them, but you can still take some angular pressure. You can still absolutely force a flanker through, yes, even through Sim TP turrets to get them behind, to then soften up this team. And then when you're ready, when you feel you have enough of an advantage, then you go in. So 2 good ways to deal with Symmetra. Using Winston is great if you're using Winston in the sense of we are going to brawl harder than the Sim team is able to brawl, and we're going to take her and her team out quickly. She should generally be the first target. Sometimes you might deal with a Doomfist or something first, but she should be something that you're very much trying to take down. Yes, if she runs a million miles away, you'll just fight her team because then she's not ramping, but if she's ramping, she should be fought. Her getting to level 3 is not an issue as long as she dies quickly thereafter. The other option for dealing with Sim could also use a Winston, but it's going to be we're going to wear this team down with poke, and then we're going to go in. And, Winston could jump in once he sees a big opening, like, oh, our Pharah hit the Sim with a direct, let me jump on her and finish her type thing. That could be perfectly fine. So those are going to be the main things there. So Winston is not some like, yes, I've picked this, and now your sim has no value. It's still going to require some team coordination to deal with a team that's running sim. That's always been the annoyance, I would say, of ladder when dealing with the builder heroes, the sim turrets, the torp turrets, those sorts of things. Yeah, they kind of punish a lack of coordination. They're not really that bad against coordination. Sim's actually pretty good. Like, Sim is pretty good and was underrated for quite a while after the rework, but dealing with that, dealing with sim, dealing with turrets, dealing with a character that ramps up like that, it's going to take some level of recognize what your team is doing, whether you're in chatter with them or not, and go, hey, is my team willing to run over this fight hard? Okay, maybe picking Winston makes sense. My team isn't willing to run over this hard. Okay, maybe picking something like Pharah makes sense. And yes, those are two different roles, but even if you're in the tank role, you can go, okay, I can play Winston either way, but are we playing Winston to wipe the sim out fast, or are we playing to I'm going to jump in once we have enough of a lead? Oh, are we playing to get poke where I play outside as Tracer? Or are we hard brawling, in which case I'm going to go in as soon as we go in and make sure she gets deleted, or make sure the BAP is pressured and can't heal her, that sort of thing. Okay, I will take questions on this if people have them, and then I'll respond more directly to the post. This is like the response because this is the topic, and I think this is what people really care about. But we'll look at the post, see if it goes in place directions I don't expect. I have not fully read it through yet or anything, so maybe I haven't even answered its question. But I thought this was would serve as the inspiration for this, which is something people would need. Val says, Temporal, recruit us more DPS mains. No one wants to play DPS in our 6-stack. For those that don't know, in our Discord server, you can join our Discord in the description below. We're having some grouping going on. The community is getting together. Last few mornings, they've gotten together, been doing 6-mans. One of those mornings, at least, they had a former contenders player in there with a bunch of them that were mostly silver. That was fun to watch. They played a few matches. We reviewed one of those on the channel here if you want to take a look at that. But if you're interested in our community, you're like, hey, I'm sick of these people that don't understand things or don't learn things like how to take on a sim that has set up a nest at a choke or on a point or something like that. I want to meet other people who understand or who think about the game, who try, even if they don't, even if they aren't blah, 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 or trying at least, or thinking about the game, who have a shared understanding of the game. Join the Discord. Find some people to play with. That's what our Looking for Group channel is for, and that's what we've got going on now. Crunch says, I haven't been here recently, but I missed some good streams with Overwatch 2. But more relevant to this, was Winston really a sim counter? Wouldn't Bubble just hard feed sim charge? Well, originally, no, not a big deal. Like, I think I just sort of went over how, hey, okay, you might be ramping up Sim, but you're getting zapped while you're ramping up, and that's a problem. If she's able to ramp off your bubble while you're not zapping her, that's a problem. If she comes inside your bubble, you're going to take her down pretty quickly. And this fight should be happening not in a isolated way. There should be a lot of pressure on the Sim. But previously, Crunch Sim worked in a different way. So originally, people thought of Winston as a Sim counter because the turrets had like 1 HP, 5 HP, something like that. Just immediately went down to even being looked at by Winston. She couldn't really set them up super high above where he would have to jump to break them, which is inefficient for him. And she did not ramp up to nearly as much damage as she does now. She had the auto-lock beam, but Winston doesn't care about you auto-locking on him. He has a large health pool. That was much more annoying to people like Genji, for example. You still think Sim should only be 200 HP, the Cowboy 2? No, please. She's already like so weak outside of Lijiang. Don't take away her wheelchair. Ouch, ouch. She's not that weak. She's really not that weak. Like, there's a reason Dallas did extremely well in one group this season, running Brawl with Sim instead of McCree. Like, she's don't go sleeping on Sim. At least make the turrets not slow you down as much. It's unfun that they do, but she needs that. Like, you can't. I'd actually be more willing to take away her extra 25 HP there than to take away the turret slow effect, because the turret slow effect is what buys her time. It's what gives her the ability to go. The turrets are her protection while she tries to ramp up, and like that's what she's playing around. I'll have renamed the Talon Dive Comp to Zombie Comp. I think that name is a bit confusing. Yeah, I mean, it gets called 6-man a lot in the scrim scene. Semitic, never really seen him as a counter to her. That's fine. A lot of people did. You're fine with DPS, just can't queue for more than 4 hours? That's fair. Why don't you disclose your rank, by the way? Is it just to be respected as a coach, or as in you have your own coach SR that would be overlooked? It's not worth it. Like, I've gone over this so many times. What you run into is it really doesn't matter what my or any other coach's SR is. Like, it's not actually helpful to know what a coach's SR is, and it's actually slightly detrimental to know, because you can be coaching a 4,600 player, and I work with 46 and 4,700 players, and once you get to the actual professional level, most of them get it. But what you run into is it's really hard for humans to separate themselves from it and go, well, you don't really know my hero because, like, you're only 4,400 SR. You're not 4,700 SR. I'm better than you. And they know that that's not true. They know that that's not like, oh yeah, they actually know better because they're at that SR. They actually do want the coaching, but it's really hard to not sometimes let that trigger at least a little bit as a human defense mechanism. So it doesn't really help when you run into that. Like, okay, why would I let that be out there and let it even compromise my ability to do coaching of players even a little bit? And for coaches that are lower SR, it can be even more of a problem because, well, higher level players actually get pretty well when they're not feeling like their ego's been attacked a little bit too hard from, hey, this was kind of a boneheaded thing to do. And you're not trying to like constantly rip apart your players' egos, by the way, but people still do get a little bit defensive, and you don't have time to do any sort of, okay, well, let me say 5 positive things to one criticism or one constructive thing. Like, there's not time to do that, and players get that. But every once in a while someone will get a little bit defensive, and it's just not worth it to be triggering an extra level of defensiveness even in their mind of like, well well, he doesn't know or she doesn't know because they're only 43 or they're only 39 or they're only, I don't know, 500 SR or whatever the case is. Like, that's not really helpful. And then as you go further down, like when you're actually dealing with the pros, that's not a big deal. But then there are coaches out there who are quite low rank, actually. There's coaches out there who are medal ranks, low medal ranks. I worked with a player who would have been qualified to coach in contenders, to be perfectly honest, and he was gold. And he was gold in, like, I don't know, 2018, 2019, so would probably be even worse by today's standards. Who knows? He wasn't coaching in contenders, but he would have been qualified to be. And that's just, like, not helpful. Not because the contenders players would care. For the most part, they wouldn't, except the little part that I'm talking about right there. But it would have actually given him trouble to coach lower level players if they knew that. Like, I promise you, the silver, the gold, and the plat players, if he'd wanted to coach them, would have had way more resistance to that sort of thing than the pros. So it just sort of becomes this, like, it's not good in my mind for coaches to be sharing their SR in general. It creates headaches and it really doesn't solve anything. It's like, oh, players have an idle curiosity, but that idle curiosity, like, nothing good can really come of that. Okay. Temporal, we talked about your map guide during the match today. It was Oasis, but we lost the match where you didn't make a map guide, so it's Temporal's fault we lost. I see, because I haven't done Oasis yet. People who are serious, I'm just jumping in the back line and saying my voice lines. There you go. I was hoping to do it today. It might still happen. This was my day with the most available time this week, since it didn't happen over the weekend because we had other stuff over the weekend. Semitic says, at Mentos Frost, there's enough people who think you need to be GM to coach to justify it, unfortunately. Yeah, I didn't think it matters. Like, Krusty is supposedly Plat Diamond, but it doesn't matter. Right, but Krusty is probably also universally agreed to be the best coach in Overwatch, except me. But then the other thing that you run into is, yes, like, that's true, but I can also promise you that there's gold, plat, whatever players who don't know that and still would be like, well, I still want a GM to do it. Like, they're wild. And I don't want to I don't want to create a situation where like, okay, maybe I can do it, maybe whatever, maybe I could be like, hey guys, my rank is 500 SR, and I joke that my rank is 500 SR, and I'm okay with that being out there. My rank is 500 SR, and I can potentially get away with it because I have the pedigree, I have the credentials, I have podium finishes in multiple regions. But again, what about, for example, that gold coach I worked with, who would have been quite fine being a analyst or an assistant coach or whatever in contenders, and now he's in a situation where there's more pressure on him. For every coach that reveals rank, there's more pressure on other coaches to reveal their rank, and that creates a situation of, and then they can't coach gold teams to prove that they're good coaches, to get to coaching tier 3, to get to contenders, to get to Al. I just don't feel like doing that to the coaching scene. You think teaching is a huge thing that any amount of SR can't change? Having the ability to teach and encourage is truly talent, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you think that, because, like, other people are going to jump to conclusions quickly. Yeah, silver to play would question everything. Yeah, silver to plat would question everything. There you go. The information is correct. It doesn't matter who it comes from. If someone tells you to eat healthy and they don't themselves, it's still true. True. You want Oasis, just not the other maps. Just tell everyone you're bronze. I mean, that's pretty much what I do, Mentos. Okay. We went over this one. Let's get to the actual post here. That seems like a good idea. So, does Winston actually counter Sim? Common metal rank scenario. Rein attempts to cross choke. Sim turrets around the choke, laser Rein. Rein can't move and is afraid to drop shield against enemy spam. Rein gets eliminated and switches to Winston. Okay. But is Winston actually a good pick against him? Winston's a fine pick against him, so is Rein. Winston can place a bubble at the choke and taser the Sim turrets. That won't work because it's a 13-second cooldown, and she's going to have a, like, oh yeah, you got rid of the turrets, maybe. Maybe. They can actually destroy that bubble very, very quickly. You can't necessarily clear the turrets yourself because you'd have to jump up and deal with them, and then you don't have your bubble to push. So you have to wait 13 seconds on another bubble, and then by the time you go in, does she have any turrets back up? Not great. But going in the main choke is not the optimal way to play Winston. Usually. Winston can jump past the Sim turrets. Sim usually play close to her team as part of the Death Ball. So is Winston dive versus Sim Death Ball, which can go either way depending on team skills. Okay. Okay. I mean, that's not a bad scenario. If you're telling us something can go either way based on team skills, that's something I'm willing to play. But sure. By the way, the Sim Ball will still not be happy if you surround it. If you jump the Winston past, it's able to stage, get health, not get chipped down back there, and then other people get past too. You're going to beat that Death Ball. Death Balls conceptually do not do very well. If it's like, we have a bunch of people like this, and the blue team is like, we have someone here, 3 people here, this blue team is winning, even if they have less people on the board most of the time. Even if these aren't particularly powerful ranged characters, this blue team is winning if they try to grind this out, as long as they don't let the Sim ramp. And if they collapse for a dive, that's likely to be powerful too. I will say it's easier for metal ranks to play Death Ball than dive, so Sim will have an ease of play advantage. Yep. I think the real issue is Rein's team is dysfunctional. Rein is supposed to tank the Sim turrets at choke while receiving pocket healing. Teammates behind Rein are supposed to quickly destroy the Sim turrets. There is team dysfunction and no one helps Rein destroy the Sim turrets. Does the Rein then understand that he needs to retreat, recharge shield, and then push back in, which he can do before she can meaningfully get turrets back up? Does it matter if he does? Because his team won't, and his team will expect the push to continue while the Rein has no or like 300 shield HP left? Okay. When there is team dysfunction, Rein can hope his team helps him next fight, or his push right so his team can actually help him. That is a confusing sentence. Or switch to a less team-dependent hero. While Winston is more independent than Rein, Winston still needs help from his team. Everyone needs help from their team. If a team isn't coordinated to protect Rein from Sim turrets, then I doubt the team is coordinated enough to play Winston dive. So don't make them. Don't play your Winston expecting your team to follow up. Instead, push into the team from behind when your team actually pushes. Play Winston to go second if your team isn't coordinated. Basically, I don't think switching to Winston just to deal with sim turrets is the right move. What do you think? How should an attacking tank deal with choke point cover with sim turrets? Well, I covered that. You wait until you can swap to Winston because Winston can follow up faster, and that's perfectly fine. And then let your team poke. They can poke through the choke. They can poke around the choke. They can poke above the choke. They can send a flanker through the choke and then have the flanker poke from behind. Let that poke happen, and then once you think you see a big enough opening, that could be Sim got body shot. That could be Bap got their lamp force. That could be Ryan's shield is really weak. But once you see that could be someone got eliminated. But once you see a big enough opening, then you shout into comms, go, 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 and you jump in. But this isn't really Winston. You could also be playing Reinhardt, and then once you see that happens, not be giving away shield, be waiting at the corner, and then just run forward when you see that happen. Those are fine. That's how you beat her. Or if you've got a really brawly team and a team that's all on the same page and a team that's willing to walk with you, you walk and you understand that there is no stabilizing. You do not get to stabilize against a sim team mid-fight until the sim is off the board. So you press W and you hold left click and you take that team down. Once she's in range and ramping off of you, you are not allowed to shield. Okay. That kind of answers that. Let's see what the comments look like real quick here. 26 comments. Once encountering Sim is a holdover from when Sim could place 6 turrets each with 1 HP before the 30 HP. Before, just running your Tesla over the turrets would destroy them, and they couldn't be placed as high, or you could place them high, but they wouldn't reach down, so that didn't really make them useful. There's a bigger issue there. So yeah, Winston was historically a better counter than he is now. Now he can work, but it's not really like Winston, though Winston does give you better brawl. It's that, hey, he's pretty good at follow-up, and if you're waiting to play the poke game, though you could also play Ryan or Hammond or whatever for that, or he's upgrading your brawl. So you don't really want your Winston instead of Reinhardt in that situation. You want to Winston in addition to your Reinhardt, especially before they have ults on the board, so your defense matrix, for example, becomes less important. Now you can play Hog instead and hook people in. That would be a way. If you hook someone, eliminate them. Hey, what do you know? Now this is easier to push, even though they have sim turrets. Sim turrets are useful, but they're not actually worth the full value of having another person on the board. Relies a lot on the map, where Sim is played often. Legion Control Center, less place for Winston to jump in, worse than Rhine. Yeah, guys, it's not strictly a Winston to Rhine comparison. Like, you don't have to think about the game that way. The word counter in Overwatch is also a gray area. I think most people would agree that it's much easier to play against Symmetra as Winston compared to Rhine because he can hit through shield. Much easier to play against Symmetra as Winston, yes. Yes, because Winston can zap while the shield is down, which is a pretty big deal. Like, Sim might be ramping, getting ammo off your shield, but if you're hurting her as she's doing that, she does not have very much health. Winston doesn't have to jump in. Okay, nothing too wildly upvoted here. Good pick against him. Can easily clear turrets. Not really. Okay. Goal is to peek shoot the turrets first and empower your team to do so. Sort of. Your job as tank is to give them this window. Sort of. You have to ensure they are positioned before you peek with them to tank them from getting eliminated. Not really. Your next goal is to eliminate Sim before Beam charges up. Like, this is sort of true. I don't actually care who's getting hurt by the turrets, and you can destroy turrets very quickly in most comps. Very quickly as your team pushes in, if you're committing to this hard, fast brawl. And at some point you commit to the hard, fast brawl. It's just, do you do it right off the bat, or do you soften them up with a lot of poke first? Okay, nothing too interesting here. We will catch up on chat. This is going to be a short one. It always was, and that's just fine. Blazing Bellblood chokes to destroy turrets. Light bulb idea? I don't know about that one. Gamebuster says Temporal Adam lost us a game. Did Adam really lose the game all by himself, though? Or did Adam just make the mistake that was sort of the last obvious mistake, where everyone actually made lots of mistakes throughout the entire game? And if you'd fixed any number of previous mistakes, you wouldn't have even been in the situation where Adam could lose you the game. This is not me bailing Adam out. I mean, Adam is my biggest troll, but this is, an educational community that we have here, and like I think we all know that plenty of mistakes were made beforehand. Temporal, make sure to redeem your free Reddit award, man. Maybe. Thank you, Lachlan. What I'm hearing from this is that we should grab Nanoblade EMP sim turrets. I mean, there you go. There you go. Low damage turrets are scary. Okay. You think Mercy's healing should be nerfed slightly? You're sick of Mercy players getting gold healing and not damage boosting anything, like 5 heals per second, less damage? Yeah, so you want to bring it back a little bit? I mean, I don't think that would hurt much for her to go down 5 health per second on her healing. Her healing number is already much higher than it started. The damage numbers are also higher than they were when Overwatch started. I think that would be fine. I don't know that it would get you the more damage boost you think it would. It might get you less damage boost because they'd be going, no, I have to heal for longer to get you back to full before I'll damage boost you. Because a lot of Mercies are fixated. Even though we understand better here, a lot of Mercies you're going to run into out there are just fixated on, oh, I damage boost when I have nothing better to do. Like it's their lowest priority thing, when it's definitely not. It's really good. I need to coach Adam better. Okay. Okay. Versus value is supposed to come from res, but mainly damage boost. A lot damage boosted Valk, yeah. You don't know how we lost Oasis Temp? You sat on the high ground as an artillery off-take? I see the problem! I see the problem! You were following your Overwatch guide, not the temporal way of playing the game. I see the problem. You should have watched Temporal reviewing the Your Overwatch Orisa guide, and then you'd have understood, like, what is Frito talking about here? You made no mistakes? And Adam says, I did not lose us the game. I did not lose us a game. Okay, cool. I think that covers it. We'll go ahead and call this one here. It was an interesting topic that I know some people have had questions about. I'd like to do more sort of topics like this that are a little bit more bite-sized, but we'll go ahead and call it there. Thanks, guys.